Hi everybody, we're live about 10 minutes early. I'm ahead of schedule, so we will give everyone time to catch up here. But I just want to kind of say thank you to everyone for watching early on here and making this channel the early success that it's been. I haven't been able to share this with as many people as I liked initially because I wasn't happy with the format and I wasn't happy with my editing. But I fixed all that, and now I'm very happy with the trailers and with the transitions and the kind of format I've settled on here. It kind of matches my personality. Anyway, so today we've got everything here for some bolognese. And this is going to be a little bit different than what you've probably experienced in traditional Italian-American restaurants or in general when you buy bolognese at the store. This is not a tomato-heavy sauce. It is centered around this guy, Chianti Classico, okay, and also beef and pancetta, okay. Pancetta, by the way, is just Italian bacon. All right, it's pork belly that's been cured, but it's not been smoked like American bacon. If you can't get pancetta, I was just lucky to be able to find this in our local Wise Market in Everett, but you can't always find it. So if you can get regular slab bacon that's not been smoked, then that will work perfectly fine. I did get some of that at our local specialty store, Fisher's Market, a couple of weeks, well, last weekend, in preparation for this, but I no longer need it since I found what am I talking about? Pancetta. So instead of this weekend, I'm going to smoke that and show you how to turn that into nice, clean applewood smoked bacon that's absolutely delicious. And it's a hell of a lot cheaper than buying it pre-sliced in the store, and you can cut it as thick as you want. So, all right. We've done a lot of prep stuff on the show before, and as I've said before, we've always do the thing that takes the longest first. So we're going to start our sauce, and then we're going to get into our pasta, and then I'm going to show you how to do the chicken that we're making. If you went to Wake Forest University and were in the Matchmaker, you will recognize this chicken, and I'll just leave it at that. So I've done some prep here. This is one whole chopped sweet onion, about 9 chopped baby carrots, 4 big ribs of celery, 4 medium ribs of celery, or 2 big ones, and then 6 cloves of garlic that I've minced up. Okay, and this is going to go not into our pot to start. This is our pancetta. Okay, so our pancetta is going to go into this cold saucepan. All right, sauce pot here, and I need my wooden spoon. And you can see that that's already diced up pretty good. Most of the time when you get pancetta, it's in a wheel, and it's pretty easy to cut. But if you get the pre-cut stuff, honestly, it has a tendency to dry out. So try to avoid that. So this is in there, and just like when we were rendering bacon for making baked beans, very similar thing. A little bit of olive oil here. This is extra virgin, and this is Italian olive oil. Just a little bit. The region that this sauce comes from is Bologna, which is in northern Tuscany, well, Emilia-Romagna, really. And the fat that people use, my family is from in between Torino and Milan, and we use primarily pork fat or butter. And as you move down the peninsula, the fat changes. The butter starts to go away around Parma and sort of in Emilia-Romagna, and that's when you start to see olive oil be the major lipid of choice. And this is sort of, since this is a Tuscan Emilia-Romagna sauce, this is sort of a hybrid because you've got pork fat and olive oil. So I've got the olive oil well incorporated over my pancetta, and then we're just going to put this onto medium heat and render this out until we get it a little crispy but not overdone. You'll notice, you'll be able to hear it here in a minute. And then we're going to put in this order, our aromatic vegetables, and we'll sweat these in that fat. Then we will put in our ground beef. This is 93% lean. You'll see some recipes that call for like ground chuck 85-15 or 73-27. Do not use that in a bolognese. It's going to basically produce an oil slick. It's not going to be fun. And in Italy too, ground beef there is a little bit different. The cows come from Piemonte, and they are pretty lean animals to begin with, so they don't have a ton of fat. This is much closer to what you're gonna find. It's ground sirloin. That's perfectly fine. And then we're going to put in our herbs. There's a whole bunch of chopped parsley, thyme, rosemary, and bay leaves. If somebody ever tells you to put basil in a bolognese, or if you see basil in a bolognese recipe, it is wrong. Don't put it in there. It's just the wrong flavor. It gets a real bitter taste to it because the basil can't stew as long as these guys. And then we've got some passata rustica. You saw me use this in the pizza. This is just some crushed San Marzano tomatoes, and we're not going to use a lot of this, just a couple of tablespoons to get that umami flavor that you're expecting. Bolognese should not be red. Bolognese is a dark, almost a burgundy colored sauce, and if you've ever seen it in Italian cookbooks and you notice it looks almost black in pictures, well, that's why. It's not a tomato sauce. It's just tomatoes just in there for a little bit of unctuousness, okay? And then we've got some beef stock here. This is homemade. I made this a while ago, and it's been in the freezer. If you don't have homemade, that's perfectly fine. You can use the box stuff. The box stuff is good. Collagen makes a good one. I think I've mentioned that before. Make sure you get the unsalted. And then we got two choices of cheese. We've got Grana Padano or Parmigiano Reggiano. Parmigiano Reggiano would be the choice that most people would make. Grana Padano is kind of like baby Parmesan. This is typically in risotto from the region, like from Milano or saffron risotto or anything like that from that region. This is the cheese you use in rice. And for sauce, sometimes it doesn't hold up as well as this, so we're going to use this guy today. And if I move it over there, I'm pretty sure Gracie will need it. And then, oh yeah, the Chianti. So this is the most important component of any bolognese in most Northern Italian cooking when you're deglazing with wine. Okay, you have spitting a little bit there. Turn that down below. You've got Chianti, which is made from Sangiovese grapes, almost 100% Sangiovese, and this is Chianti Classico. And this is what you want to use for any type of sauce like this. If you can't find this, and it's not that expensive. I mean, this is maybe $15. Use something close to it. The closest American counterpart would be Pinot Noir from like Oregon or Northern California. Don't use a Cabernet. Don't use something like a Zinfandel. Nothing super heavy because that's not really going to work in this sauce. Also, a nice substitute for this is Beaujolais. Okay, although it's not close to the same grape, it's from southern France, but it does work quite well. But this is what you want to use, okay? And now we're just going to start. You can see you may notice the camera quality is a bit higher this time than the last couple live streams. I got some new streaming software that seems to be working quite a bit better. Okay. By the way, live chat is enabled, so I put the comments on this time. I haven't had those on before, just because I was kind of getting my sea legs under me with this whole thing. But they're on now. So you can go ahead and comment your heart's content right on the live stream. And, all right, here we go. So you can see here, I'm not going to move this camera because I got it on a tripod. What am I doing? So this guy, you can see that, not like that. Once this starts to get just a little brown, is when we are going to put in our aromatic vegetables. Okay, because you want some bits. You can see the fawns start to form at the bottom there. That's what we want. We want those crispy bits on the bottom. Now it's not burnt. Okay, that's just the Maillard reaction kicking in, and that's what gives you your flavor. So I try to heat up here to medium here, so it's going to take a bit of time. Also today. We're going to be making Pappardelle, which is the traditional pasta you would serve with bolognese. Spaghetti bolognese isn't really something that you see in Italy, to be honest with you. It's Pappardelle, which is what you get in Florence or Modena or anywhere in that region. So that's what we're going to be making today. It's going to be gluten-free. It's real simple. I'm going to teach you how to make it by hand because not everybody has a pasta machine, and what do you do if your pasta machine breaks? Well, then you don't know how to make pasta. So this is real easy. It takes about 20 minutes. It's really not difficult. So I will walk you through that here in a bit. I've got my stuff set up over there. We're just going to continue with our sauce, and as soon as we get this onto a simmer, I'm going to show you how we make our chicken, because we have to start that process way earlier than you ordinarily would. I've got a big cast iron pan there, you can see that. My oven is cold. Once we get this onto a simmer, I'm going to start preheating my oven at max temp, throw my cast iron pan in there and get it really, 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 really hot. Okay, so it heats evenly. And once that hits temp, okay, we will have made our pasta, our sauce will be simmering, and we will have done our chicken. We will have deboned. I will show you how to take out the backbone of the chicken. We're going to spatchcock it, which means butterfly it. You know, lay it flat, and we will have seasoned it. And yeah, apparently the UPS man's invading again. We will then throw it in the oven. And this chicken, by the way, is the easiest roast chicken you're ever going to make. And if you have problems roasting chicken, this will fix them. It only takes about 40 minutes. It's really, really simple, and you'll get almost perfect results almost every time, even the first time you do it. I've been making it this way for 20-ish years. It's a good method. So please watch this section, and I'll try to clip this out later to give you a nice section to look at. Okay, let's keep moving here. So we got some steam coming off of our pot. Ah, there we go. So you can see our pancetta is starting to get a little crispy around the edge, and that's good. Got some smoke coming. Okay. There we go. Now we're going to turn the heat down to low again. We've got some nice crispy bits forming. Okay. So we don't want to get it super, super crispy, because it's going to continue to crisp up as we cook it. So now we're going to do our aromatic veg. Okay, it's going to go in. Now you can do this ahead of time, just put it into a sealed container. That's what I did here. And it'll help you just kind of put stuff in. There is now a lot of fat. There was a tablespoon of olive oil, but all of this fat, okay, from the pancetta is rendered out, and you see that that's about almost 4 tablespoons of fat. This is why we don't use heavily fatted beef in this, because if you add something that's 20% fat into that mix, it's just going to be a huge oil slick on top. And I'm pretty sure if you've had bolognese before at a restaurant, or at someone who's made it and it's been like that oily kind of greasy mess, that's the problem. So we're going to eliminate that here today. So we've got it over medium-low, and here come our aromatic vegetables. Sizzle is what we want. This guy's going to go in the sink, and we're going to stir it around. All right, now you may notice I haven't put any salt in yet, and that's because pancetta is pretty salty stuff, so you don't really have to add too much salt here. We just want to get all of our aromatics coated with our fat, cooking fat, turn it down to low, and now what we're going to do is add some black pepper. Okay, and one of our bay leaves, and then we're going to add just a pinch of salt, because that's all we need, because the rest of the salt is coming from that pancetta. And once you start to see this get fragrant, and you see the vegetables, the onions in particular, get translucent, that's when we're going to add our other components. Any kind of sauce, and if you watched marinara, you will know that I did it in layers, okay? And that's what we're doing here today too. And with the layers, the layered approach here, that allows us to adjust the flavor as we go and to get a really solid product at the end. So, alrighty. Now I could be making pasta at the same time here, but I'm not going to do that. We're just going to do this in stages. I don't think we're really going to be cooking here for longer than about an hour and a half today. So this does need to stew for quite some time. So I may just, once I get this on the back burner, we'll move to the other stuff, like I said before. So it's really not too too difficult. Welcome to everybody who's joining us. We have been live for about 10 minutes. I was a little early today. Not too bad, though. And let's see where we're at. Okay, we're going to turn this up just a bit. As you see the water start to come out of your onions and your celery and your carrots, okay, then you can start to crank up the heat just a smidge. You don't want to get it too hot because you don't want to burn anything, especially you don't want to burn that garlic. But by putting it in here with all these other components and all this other water, it's not going to burn as long as you keep it on medium heat. All right, so we'll just let that go for a bit. The next thing we're going to do after this, then, like I said, is put in our ground beef. But we have to wait until these vegetables get a little bit soft, until they've sweated out some of their, water. Because that's literally what we're doing. I'm going to check some comments here. I'm going to try to keep up with comments today, but I may have a problem keeping up with all of them. So just write them, and I'll get to them as we have lulls. I'm going to check for some right now. Like I said, welcome everybody to this current live stream. If you're at work, turn this on your desk, and tune in. You'll like it. If you're at home from school, if you are cooking with your daughter or your son, or brother, sister, whatever, this is going to be a good one to watch because this is something an entire family can do together. It's very, very interesting for them to learn, and honestly, it is a simple recipe that keeps a long time. The great thing about bolognese is that after you make it, you can keep it in the fridge for a couple of weeks, or you can freeze it and then thaw it out and use it again. It's a very robust sauce to keep in your refrigerator, and you can always augment it with other things, if you'd like. So let's see where we're at here. Okay. All right, we're getting a little bit translucent on the celery. I'm going to show this to you again here. Oh, that's a little hot, so I won't do that. So you see this guy here. You can see the onions sort of start to get a little bit clearer around the edge, and then you can see the celery start to get a little clearer too. The carrots aren't going to really break down for quite some time, so don't worry about those really kind of getting soft on you. They're just there for sweetness and they're there for balance, so don't worry about that. But once you see that celery, okay, and those onions start to get soft and a little translucent around the edge, that means we've got about 4 minutes left to cook these through, and then we're going to put in our beef. You don't want crunchy celery. That is not good to taste in this at all. You want something nice and soft and nice and easy to bite through. Onions too. Onions get sweeter the more you cook them down, and we're not caramelizing the onions today. We're not doing it. Caramelized onions and bolognese don't really go well together. Caramelized onions and most sauces don't go well together, unless you're making, something with caramelized onions, like onion soup or something like that. Okay, so here we go. Thank you to those of you who are just joining now. We've been live for about, like I said, 12 minutes or so. We were 5 minutes early, which is good for me. And we've got our... Okay, so we're almost there. I'm going to show you this again. Now, I just showed you this 2 minutes ago. See how much has changed in just 2 minutes, okay? So right there, you see, now these onions are almost completely translucent at this point, and so is the celery. You don't want to get brown color on your aromatics here. You're not looking to saute. Remember, this is a sweat. The difference between a saute and a sweat, saute is done at a little higher heat, and you're looking to get them brown and broken down. This is just sweating them to get some of the water out and break them down a little bit, but still keep them whole so they can hold up into a sauce. Anytime you see somebody says to sweat a vegetable, it's to keep it together with something that's going to cook for a while, because otherwise it'll just completely fall apart. Okay. Typically in soups you'll see sweats. Now we've got our beef, so we are good to go now. And you'll notice that this has been on medium for a while. Our pancetta is continuing to get crispy, which is really, really nice, which is what we need. Now we're going to turn it up to high, and there goes our ground beef. Now if you prep this right, so this is ground sirloin, this is really easy to break up with a wooden spoon, and you want to get some nice brown bits. You want to break it up as much as you can. Okay? And here the fat is coming from the pork. And then after we get this nice and brown and it starts to become pebbly, right, we are going to check for salts, check for seasonings, things like that. And the key here is to not steam the meat. Right? That's why we did that step of sweating the vegetables first, so we don't end up steaming this beef and it looks gray and gross. So I've got it nice and broken up here, a couple of chunks. We're going to let this go for a little bit. All right. And once I've got some nice brown color on the beef, I'll taste it, see where we are with salt. We should be fine. Again, because that pancetta is very salty stuff, so don't worry about that too much. And we haven't added our other herbs in yet because it's not time. If you put these in too early in this sauce, what happens is they get bitter. So we don't want to do that. Once this gets brown, we will add in these last 2 bay leaves. Are going to go and live in the sauce the whole time, just like we did with marinara sauce, right? But the parsley, the thyme, and the rosemary. Now, rosemary and thyme are pretty strong stuff, but they do balance each other, but you don't need a lot. This is about 1 sprig of rosemary that I've chopped up fine, and then 4 or 5 sprigs of thyme that I've taken the leaves off of and chopped up fine. And then this is about half a head of flat-leaf Italian parsley that I've chopped up fine, because it does a lot. You need more of it than you think when it comes to parsley. Okay? And once we put those herbs in, by the way, after we've got this meat browned, we don't want to we only want to cook them for like a minute, so they can develop a little bit of color, a little bit of flavor, and that's it. And then we're going to deglaze our pan with our wine. And that is where things start to get interesting with this sauce. You always want to use the acidic component to deglaze your pan more so than stock. Just because it's going to be easier to scrape the good, nice, crispy bits off the bottom that we're going to develop here after we stew this meat. If you want to add some butter to this, some people do that. That's fine. I wouldn't add too much because, again, we have more than enough fat in here to cook everything, and you can see the water coming out of the beef. See how it's gray like that? Once this water gets driven completely out, this is going to start to get crispy on the edge. And once it starts to get crispy on the edge, then we'll scrape the bottom. And if we see any brown bits, then we'll start deglazing. And again, deglazing just means pouring a liquid into your pan to scrape off delicious stuff that's left over. That's all it is. So it's a fancy term for something that is really, really simple. Okay. Now here's something I put in mine and that I learned in Florence when my wife and I were on our honeymoon. And it made it taste delicious. This is some dried Sorrento lemon peel, and I use this in a lot of stuff. It really kind of adds something, sort of a je ne sais quoi, really. So it's just a pinch, not a lot, because you don't want too much lemon flavor in there. But that's just a pinch of that Sorrento lemon peel. Fresh zest, I learned over there too. Fresh zest does not work as well as the dried stuff in a long stew like this. So just that little bit of brightness from that lemon peel, dried lemon zest, is all you really need. Okay, so our first bay leaf is almost giving up the ghost here, so we're going to take that guy out. And you just want that little bit of bay flavor. Okay, that's all. Okay, got some brown bits here. Let me taste this real quick and see where we're at. Okay, yeah, that needs salt. All right. Okay. About a tablespoon of salt there. And we're probably going to need to add some pepper as well. Celery has a tendency to suck salt out of things, so. And as the water boils off, the flavors get more concentrated, but they also dissipate at the same time. It's really kind of weird. Salt, a little pepper, and now what I'm going to do. You've seen me. I put my dust mix in pretty much everything. That goes double for here as well. Not double, but goes for this as well. So this is just my dust mix, and this has all those wonderful Mediterranean flavors in it: garlic powder, onion powder, pepper, salt, some bay leaves, a little parsley, a little sugar, basically everything. And this is the last seasoning we're going to need to do, okay, until we add Parmesan cheese. And that's the last bit of seasoning we will put into this sauce, because we don't need to season. Excuse me. What did I drop? Oh, my nutmeg. We don't need to season our oh God, what am I talking about? Beef stock, because I made it. I know what's in it. But if you get store-bought stuff and get the unsalted stuff, you're going to need to put some extra salt in there as well, and that's fine. Now we'll give this one more taste. Once we've incorporated these seasonings here, that's salt. And let's taste this. Always use more salt than you think you need. I know I've harped on this a bunch, but use twice as much salt, twice as much fat as you think you're going to need. Salt and fat makes things taste good. Okay, that's good. All right. So we're good there for that stage. Now what we're going to do, these chopped herbs, we're going to go in. Okay, just a bit. Chopped herbs. I got it. Remember, notice I can't talk to this. Notice the herbs, I said we're only going to cook these for a couple minutes, and that's what we're going to do here, just to get some of the aromatic out of it, some of the aromatic elements out of it. And rosemary and thyme with strong stuff, so this is what we need for this sauce. All right, that's pretty good right there. We're just gonna get these nice and crispy. As the beef starts to become more and more pebble-like, we'll break it apart more. You don't want to leave big chunks of ground meat in here, just because that's going to be, that's not going to go well with your pasta. So it's time to deglaze our pan. We've got some nice bits in the bottom. And this is going to be quite a bit of wine. Okay. That's about a quarter of a bottle there. So one big glass, that was about a cup of Chianti. And then we're going to scrape the bottom just to kind of get some of those crispy bits off there. And we're going to reduce this more. Right? And then we're going to do it again. So after this reduces, we're going to put one more jolt of wine in this. Okay. Then we're going to put in our stock over top of that. Yes, I almost burned myself, but no, I didn't, so that's a good thing. All right. Okay. Our bay leaves go in, our last two bay leaves. And something that I do, that my grandma did, that my great-grandma did, and that I've seen a lot of people do in Italy. And when my wife and I were on our honeymoon, I asked a lot of questions about these kind of things, and this is what they told me. And by the way, my grandma always did this. So did Dunda. If you're from my family and you're watching this, it is not in the cookbook in any way, shape, or form. So this is just something that I do. So if you... A little bit of nutmeg, just a couple of grinds. That's it. That is something that will add a little bit of extra flavor, and it's that kind of that sort of thing that nobody really knows what it is, but they know they like it. All right, so we're going to reduce this sauce here. We're going to keep reducing this sauce. Once we get to sort of a little thicker consistency here, then we're going to put in a little more wine, reduce it again, and then add our stock on top of it. All right, so let's put this over high heat, make it aggressive. There we go. All right, we're getting there. We want to drive all of that liquid out. Reducing is a very nice trick that you will learn. You see me do it all the time. Anybody, you know, when you make a sauce, you always want to reduce stuff or soup or anything like that. Okay. So here we go. Alrighty. Now it's time for one more shot of this. Okay. As we're almost all the way down there, we don't want a totally dry pan. Okay. We just want something that has lost enough water to concentrate that flavor. Okay. So that's all we really want here. And we're getting it nice and there we go. That's good. Okay, so our beef is now basically cooked through, which is nice, and it's going to continue to cook through and get more tender. But here we go, and one more shot of our wine here. So we've used a good half a bottle of that, and that's really how much you want to put in. That is not something. Don't be shy. Don't be worried about it. We're going to reduce again here, and then we're going to put in our beef stock. Now you may see some recipes like that are a sort of a quick bolognese that stay a little watery because they finish cooking the pasta inside of this. That's fine if you're making something that is just kind of, it's kind of a little cheat for a weeknight meal. But with someone with celiac disease like myself, you really have to make things separate. But since, I mean, in my kitchen I could do it because it's gluten-free pasta, but if in a restaurant they make their bolognese all together, you got a real problem with that, because bolognese is gluten-free, and if anybody puts flour in their bolognese, that's wrong too. Don't do that. Also, don't put Worcestershire sauce in your bolognese. Somebody who tells you to do that is also wrong. Leave that. But if you want to add some more umami, what they do in Italy is this. This is just some aged balsamic vinegar, some accento balsamico from Modena. And we will use this later. It's just a little bit, because that is from the region as well. Worcestershire sauce is an English thing, and if you haven't done your seasoning properly, and you haven't started with the right herb mix, and you haven't got the salt together, then you're going to need to add something like Worcestershire sauce, because it gives you that sort of heavier flavor that you're missing if you use the wrong kind of wine, right? Well, which like American table wines would be the wrong kind of wine. So, right kind of wine, right kind of seasoning mix, a little bit of nutmeg, and now we're going to add, before our beef stock, our tomatoes. This is just a couple tablespoons, so that's it. That's it. That's all the tomato we're putting in here. No more. You don't want it red. This is not a red sauce. Okay, it is not. Just a little bit of tomato puree, just to get the flavors amped up a bit. And now, our balsamic vinegar. A couple teaspoons of that. Well, just 1 teaspoon of that. All right. That's going to add our sweetness. All right. And there we go. And now we add our beef stock. So this is roughly 2 cups of beef stock. We don't want to make a soup here. We're making a sauce. But you want to basically use twice as much beef stock as you did wine. So we used 16 ounces of wine, roughly, 375 milliliters. So we're going to use 750 milliliters, 700 milliliters of beef stock. All right. So that is done. Over 32 ounces of beef stock. All right, that's done. Now, all we really need to do is bring this up to an aggressive boil, okay, and then reduce it, reduce it, reduce it, reduce it, uncovered until it reduces down. Then we will add in our cheese, which, I mean, we can honestly put it in now, but it really wouldn't help the overall product. So we just got to get this up to an aggressive boil, reduce it, and once it's reduced, we're going to taste it again. Okay, and once we taste it, then we're going to put our cheese in, finish it up, and by that time, we will have most of our other stuff ready to go. So we're going to put this, leave this on the front burner here for a while, and now I'm going to get my oven ready for our chicken. Okay. So I'm going to preheat this to max temperature. $550. All right. Cold, big cast iron pan, right in the middle. That's going to take about half an hour to get really, really hot. Maybe a little bit more than that. So let's do some other stuff now. I'm going to make some pasta. So let's get over to the board here, and I'll show you how to do that. Bear with me here. I've got to change my angle on my camera. So here we go. All right. Okay. So I'm going to use the other direction here. Normally you see me shooting this way, but I'm going to be over here today. Just because it's easier to see me and to work with. Okay. Let me adjust the microphone here. Since I don't have multiple cameras, this is harder for me to do by myself. Okay, so making pasta is not difficult. If you have a stand mixer, you can certainly use that, but not everybody has one of those. And the old ways sometimes are the best. So what we're going to do is make a bit of a mess here. I've got a clean board. This is a garbage bowl. We'll get that out of there. And this is 500 grams of gluten-free bread flour mix, or all-purpose, whatever you want to use. But the idea here is, please wait. Okay, 2 to 3 cups. Like I said in the last video with the pizza video, everybody's cups, packed cups, all that stuff are totally different in size. So I'm going to do that. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a little bit of a well here. Now I'm going to tell you this just from experience. Make the well much bigger than you think it needs to be, because you are going to make a mess. I am going to make a mess here, and I've done this before. First time you do this, you're going to make a mess too. But again, this is something pretty fun. So we just make a well here, and I'm going to clean my hands. But all we really need then is some eggs and some olive oil. Now, for pappardelle, traditionally you'd use more yolks than white. But we're going to use the whole egg here today because gluten-free flour has a tendency to have a little bit more, well, the xanthan gum in it that mimics the gluten structure, okay, has kind of behaves like fat. All right, so we don't need as much fat from the egg yolks, and this isn't 00 flour anyway, so we don't need it. Plus the xanthan gum will help us stick it all together. So 1 egg, Garbage bowl, 2 eggs. Do our garbage bowl. I'll let you out in a minute. 3 eggs. We're going to use 6 of them. Okay, so that's a lot of eggs, I know, but all right, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. Next thing we need to do is make sure our eggs are incorporated properly. Now, if you put them in whole, okay, you're not going to be able to break them up the right way. So what you want to do is whisk them together with a fork. You don't need, or a tiny whisk, like this, which is what I'm going to use. All right, a little bit of olive oil. You only need about a tablespoon, tablespoon and a half. So a little bit of that. There, okay. And now we put in some salt. You need salt in your pasta. You also need salt in your pasta water. Just by the way, when we go to cook this later, fresh pasta cooks a hell of a lot faster than dried pasta. It really only takes a minute. So I'll show you how to do that momentarily here. Well, not momentarily, in a bit. So salt, that is about, that's like a good heavy pinch. It's like a teaspoon. You really don't need too much more. Okay, so here we go. Now we're going to break our yolks. Whisk it together with the oil. You want to, the reason we're doing this, similar to the way when you're making an omelet, you want to get out as much air as possible. You don't want any bubbles to form into your pasta. All right. Then we're just going to form this right in there, and it's going to leak. There we go. So I made a mistake. I already made a mess. All right. So obviously this is not going the way I planned. Good job, Joe. Excellent. You can clearly do this in a bowl if you want, but obviously this did not go the way I felt like it. I should. So everybody watching online, this is going to be just for the memes, okay? But you'll see that this still works, which is amazing. So you're going to make a mess. Do not worry about it. My grandma taught me how to do this when I was very, very young, and I've made a mess ever since. And you'll make a mess too, so don't worry about it. Your hands are going to get gloopy. Now remember, gluten-free flour is a little bit wetter, a little bit harder to work with than traditional flour, okay? Because you have to add that xanthan gum in there, and it's rice flour, so it doesn't necessarily bind together as well. So let's get my hands cleaned off here, and then now I can put this together the way I want. So excuse the mess, but it's going to happen. Once the damn wall breaks, man, forget it. You can get it. That's why sometimes it's easier to do this in a stand mixer, but it's not a big deal. See what I said about making, what I meant about making it bigger than you think, because that is, that ran over quite early. But like I said, if it breaks, it's not the end of the world. All you really need to do is work it with your hands. And you see it's kind of shaggy together like that? That's good. That's where we want to be at this point anyway. So I'm gonna get a fork and work the rest of this together. All right. Scrape this up. Put this all. We're gonna put this all together. And I may put this back in the bowl just to finish it, but it should be fine from now on. Okay. So if you find it's a little wet, add more flour. That's perfectly fine. The reason I start with 500 grams is usually that is how much it takes to absorb all of this liquid. Okay, but sometimes it takes a little more than that. And gluten-free dough, like we did with pizza, is generally wetter to begin with when we need it to work properly. But this doesn't need to be super wet. This just needs to come together. So let's get all of our missing pieces in here. Now I'm going to put a little olive oil on my hands to make this easier to work with. If your dough is sticky, that is a really good trick. Too much flour can clump together. Put olive oil on your hands to make things a lot easier to look at. All right, so there we go. And hold on 1 second. My watch is telling me to breathe. Yeah. By the way, most cooking shows will never show you this. if it breaks apart on camera, they'll just do it again, right? I don't believe in that. So, okay, there we go. Now, put this together. You can see it coming together a little bit there. Now let's get some oil on my hands so I can work with this a little bit easier. It's a shaggy dough. You notice the color starting to change. It's getting a little bit yellow, and that's good because that's where we want to be. If you notice it getting dry, add some water. Okay. All right. And we can put this into our bowl there that has more of our egg. But we're almost there. Okay, so it's a little bit pebbly. It's okay for now. So we can add some water into that, but we're getting there. Now the reason I didn't have the water first, okay, is because you can never take water out. You can always add it in, and now that I know we need some, I can take a little splash and get it in there and get our dough where we want it to be, because it's almost there, pliability-wise, okay? But unlike with regular wheat-based flours, gluten-free flour has a tendency to dry out again, because it's rice, okay? So we just want it a little bit flexible. We're not going to need a ton of water in this, just a little bit, and I've got some Pellegrino sparkling water there. So this, a little bit of water, just a smidge. Good thing that's waterproof. I'm just making all kinds of messes today. So anybody who wants to tune in and see me make a mess, right now. Okay, so here we are. Now this is where we want it. You see how it's not quite super sticky, but it's right exactly where it's workable. Okay, that little splash of water changed the entire consistency of our dough. And now you can see it coming apart pretty easily. All right, and what you want to do with this, you want to make sure it is nice and easy to work with, so it's not like a rock hard kind of a thing. Now, the other thing to do is you could just buy some dry pasta, and that's a hell of a lot easier. But what fun is that? Alright, so there we go. Alright, so now we're good. Okay. So this can go back in our bowl now, and we can add some more flour if need be to work with later. If we go back into our egg bowl, that's what we're going to call it. Okay. And just like a pizza dough, we don't have to let this rise or anything like that, but we want to make sure we get it in the right state of mind, so to speak, to work with. Right, so there we go. Now I'm going to clean this up. I'm just going to let this sit here and hydrate, okay, for a bit. I'm going to clean this up, and then we get some nonstick parchment paper out, and we're going to roll our dough out. Our sauce smells incredibly good, by the way. I'm going to show you here. It's still at that aggressive simmer, that aggressive boil to reduce. So once we get it to the point where it needs to be, I will show you what it looks like. All right. My wedding ring came off. That's never a good thing. I'm just happy I have a wife that's so understanding. She lets me make a huge mess in the kitchen as long as I clean it up first. So, all right, this guy's gonna go in the sink. Start rinsing down. Clean up as you go, as my grandma would say. Alrighty. And, okay. I've got about a quarter of an egg left behind there. That's fine. I mean, there's more than enough egg in there. You notice the color's right and it's come together. If you see somebody on TV making pasta and it's always perfect like that, you know, like you get into a little volcano, even if you've done this 1,000 times, that volcano still, you know, the walls will still break occasionally. So don't worry about it. You're not messing up if you make a mistake. I just made a huge one, so don't worry about that. It's not a big deal. Heat. Water. Oh, this guy's gonna go back. Getting old's tough. Alright, so now I've got my work surface here. Put my cheese back. And what I'm going to do is use some parchment paper to work this out on. If you have a silpat or anything like that, that also helps immensely. You can use a weld. You can just put a bunch of bench flour out on your counter, okay? But sometimes that's just a royal pain in the butt, so we're not going to do that today. Okay, now this may have trouble staying pat on your board, so a little bit of water will help it not move. I know it seems weird, but water helps things stick onto countertops. So there we go. That's nice and stable now. We're just going to take that edge over. All right. Yeah, pretty good. Okay. Now what we need, turn this guy out. There we go. It's a little wet. That's fine. Now what we need to do is get our rolling pin. So, pasta machines, the way they work is by progressively rolling things thinner until you get the sheet of pasta you need. But, you know, a lot of people can't afford one, and hand crank ones are difficult to operate, and the attachment for your KitchenAid is like $100. So, you know, that can be a pain and not accessible to everyone. But a rolling pin's $2 and it's really easy to come by. So here we go. This is gluten-free flour here. See, it's labeled gluten-free flour. All right, so we're just going to get some bench flour out here, dust it. This is why we added that water, by the way, because it is going to get drier considerably as we work with it. And see how that parchment helps keep it from sticking as we roll this out. Okay, there we go. It's a nice cake there. So we got our well-floured rolling pin. Now we're just going to roll this out. So the thing is, with pasta, doing it by hand like this is the base technique, and it is a good workout. And people have been doing this for hundreds of years. Well, thousands of years, really. The Romans did this for a long time. And Chinese do this with rice pasta and stuff. So you just want to get it to the thinness you're looking for. If you're making lasagna noodles, they can be a little thicker. If you're making spaghetti, you want it a little thinner. If you're wanting linguine, you want that a little thinner. This is Pappardelle. Now see, that's a little bit thick. You see that's about 1/4 inch. But here's what we're going to do. Watch this. This is what your pasta machine does for you. Okay? You'll fold it over, and you'll run it through at setting number 5, right? And then you'll run it through setting number 4, setting number 3. Well, we're doing all of that here and making our pasta with just our blood and sweat and tears here. All right, and a little elbow grease. Not the end of the world. It's pretty easy to do. This is, despite my mess cleanup, this has taken maybe 15 minutes at the most. If somebody tells you they can't make meatballs, meatballs are the easiest thing in the world. They take 5 minutes. Pounds and pounds and pounds of them. Pasta too is not hard to make. It's not. I know it's intimidating at first, but It is not difficult. And by the way, these new gluten-free flour blends really behave exactly like regular flour. So it's not like it used to be when you used to have to make your own flour blend and mess around with the rice flour, and cornstarch, potato starch, and all that other bullshit. All right. This just behaves the way you expect. Okay, so now let's take a look at our pasta sheet. All right, you see that? That's 1/16 of an inch. That's what we're looking for. Now, you want to go a little bit thinner, you can. Pappardelle, though, which is the traditional pasta for this sauce, is a thicker pasta. So don't sweat it if it's a tad thick. And I'm sweating right now because that oven's really hot. All right. Now we need to cut this. So we need to figure out how big we want our noodles to be. Next thing is, I have a tape measure here. This is clean. Pappardelle traditionally is about 3/4 of an inch wide. So what I'm going to do is take my fork and make a mark about every 3/4 of an inch. By the way, if you're making raviolis, this dough also works, and this technique also works. Okay. It also works for almost any pasta, really. Okay. And these little dot marks are going to help you cut it, because we're going to do one more roll after we cut it to our desired size. Okay. Now I'm going to get. Oh. Yep, of course I tripped. And Brody's going to eye the garbage bowls. And put this out of the way. Alright. Oh, bloody hell, where is my cutter? So we're going to use pizza cutter here. You can also use a Mezzaluna or anything like that. So straight up and down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And the reason we're cutting this now, again, is because we need to roll this out flat again once it's already gotten to the size we want it. There's some excess, we can make into some extra pasta. Okay. Alright, so now these guys here, these bigger strips, okay, they're not done yet. Here we go. Let's put a couple of these together, and we're going to roll these flat, and then we're going to cut them again. Now, you could also roll this up and cut it, but I find this way easier if you're just starting out, and that's why I'm showing it to you. It's a little more work, but until you get the hang of the dough consistency, this is the easiest way to do it. I know it may look tedious, but honestly, this is not difficult. So here we go. Basically, each one of these noodles is going to get cut, is going to get squeezed down and cut in half. So I'll demonstrate with this guy first. And then we'll dust some flour into a baking dish, throw these in there, and leave them alone to just dry out a bit before we throw them in our boiling water. So this is a big one here. Now, here's what we're going to do. So we're just going to flatten that guy out, okay? Just like that. And that's nice and thin. And you see that? How much thinner that is? Great. That's what we want. Now, if you were going to make tortellini, you could do this. You could, wrap that up. But here's what we're going to do. Split it down. Now we need to get a little bit wider than that. So that guy's sticking to the board. Okay. A bit wider. Okay. There. Now in half and like this. Okay. There we go. And that is what pappardelle should look like. Okay. Now they're all not going to be perfect, but don't worry about that because this is going into sauce, so who cares? Right. Linguine is thinner than this. Spaghetti is thinner than this. But we're going to just keep doing this until we get the desired shape we want. Now, like I said before, once you get the hang of this, you can fold this over and do it that way. But that's really difficult to do your first time out. So this is something that is a base technique. I said my grandma taught me how to do this a long time ago. This is something that that's what. And you notice we're getting more yield than you think. Getting a couple of big ones, a couple of small ones. A little variety is good. People can tell it's homemade then. That's a good thing. Exact consistency in your pasta sometimes just isn't the thing you want. Sometimes you want it a little rustic. I mean, you can make it pretty, you can make it nice and even. Use a pasta machine, and that's fine. I mean, honestly, it still tastes good. But I like this. So there we go. Now I'm going to get our baking sheet out now, so I can just start putting these on there and lining them. Now we're going to line that with parchment paper as well, so it doesn't stick. Just give me 1 second here. Okay, our bolognese is reducing pretty nicely. Okay, we're getting there. We are getting there. Okay. Oh, it's getting real warm. So here, we're going to lightly dust this with a little bit of flour. That's it. And our pasta is going to go right in here. Now, a lot of people, you're going to see people make pasta nests. All right, nests are pretty, but they really don't serve much of a purpose. So it's not entirely necessary to do that. Just make sure you've got your pasta here in nice little sheets. And if this were a pre-recorded episode, this is the point in the episode where I would say I will see you when these are done and speed this up 600%. But we are not that. We are not there. So you get an idea of how long some of these things take me to do. And this will maybe give you a better understanding of why, when it's just me, so content-wise, it is literally just me. I don't have a camera crew. I don't have a sound editor. I don't have an editor. I don't have a director or a script writer. I do everything myself. So I make it, I shoot it, I cut it together, I score it, I promote it, So sometimes these things take me a lot longer. So if I fall behind schedule, and also because I'm back to work now, this is, like I said before, my production schedule is going to be a lot different than it used to be. I'm trying to get as much stuff done this week before the summer, if we have a summer rush at the resort start out. People have asked where I work. I work in Omni Bedford Springs. It is a very, very nice place, and I love it. So, all right. So we're going to keep rolling. I'm going to check our bolognese here in a second. It looks like it's starting to smell like it's done. So, who's texting me? So my mom just sent me a text. She wants to know how to invite people to my website. So Mom, if you're watching, all you have to do is send them the link to the website. Just copy and paste the link. And if it's this, just go to the Facebook page, and the link is right there at the top. So. That's not perfect. Again, since I'm just making this for myself and my wife, I'm not making this I'm not making this pretty or perfect or anything like that. And plus, you guys are just learning how to do this. So you didn't tune in here because you know how to make pasta. So you don't have to worry about the aesthetics so much. Just make sure you get the flavors right first, and then you can worry about the ancillary stuff. Okay, don't sweat. Don't sweat it. I mean, sweat the small stuff, but don't sweat it too much because as long as it tastes great, nobody's really gonna care. And again, gluten-free pappardelle is really, really good. You can find some of that. Delilah makes some. It's at their store in Jeanette, I believe, and I think you can get it online as well. Again, no, I am not sponsored by them. I would love free stuff if they're watching this. So this is about total, after I get this all rolled out, about a pound of pasta, okay? And that's going to be in the meat sauce. The bolognese is going to be about a pound as well. You never want to have, there's a couple of schools of thought of this, but equal amounts of pasta and sauce is fine. But you don't want to over sauce your pasta. So when you go to Italy, you'll notice that pasta is not drowning in sauce. It's not like the Olive Garden here, Pasta is lightly sauced, and it is a very thin coating, and you want to make sure your pasta adheres. Your sauce adheres to your pasta, but not takes over the dish. Because just like barbecue sauce, your sauce isn't the star. It is a complementary ingredient. The sauce should never be the central component of your dish. If it is, that means that the underlying ingredient is not that great. The reason sauces even exist in the first place is to mask rotten meat and other stuff. So that's their history. Especially garum, like the Romans used to make. That was just basically fish sauce. That's where Worcestershire sauce comes from. That's the base. That's the base of that, the garum recipe. Now, we in Paris, Worcestershire sauce comes from India. It's fish sauce, but they made their own adjustments. But garum is the base. Was the original version of it in Europe. So that sauce, the Romans would put it on everything. And because, back then, 2,000 years ago, food preservation wasn't amazing. I mean, you had salted stuff, you had smoked stuff, you had those kind of things. But you didn't really have anything like, you didn't have refrigeration. So fresh stuff, fresh meat in particular, got bad before it could get to the customer. So these sauces would cover up that flavor. Right? Kind of the reason the ketchup exists today. There used to be this stuff in colonial America called mushroom ketchup, and if you've ever watched the documentary on the American Revolution, they talk about ketchup. That's what they're referring to. So mushroom ketchup basically is like a thin mushroom Worcestershire sauce that you could put on almost anything. Okay, so that's good enough for our purposes here, because all I'm going to do is get the rest of this in our our water. Okay, a little more flour on these guys are starting to stick. And our bolognese is almost done. Yes, I'm not paying too much attention to the bolognese. I'm just kind of listening to it, like I told you in the marinara video. I'm listening to what that sauce sounds like. And I know that sounds kind of ridiculous, but it's true. And you can hear when it starts to reduce, and that's when you know it's time to go over and check it. And we're not quite there yet, just so you're aware. There we go. That's a good guy. Like I'm talking to, flour and water and eggs as if they're alive. Okay, well. Oh, good. It didn't fall all the way down. That's fantastic. Good job, Joe. Oh, God. Okay. Well, didn't lose it all. Brody, that's all you, buddy. Go ahead. That's all yours. Didn't lose it all, so we're just gonna stop and go back to the Bolognese. Okay. All right, so here we are. You can see, like I said, I don't edit stuff, so you can see the Bolognese here. It's almost reduced down, and we're getting there to that point where it needs to be thickened a bit. So here's when we're going to add cheese. Microplane here. And Parmesan. This is about 3 ounces of Parmesan cheese. We're going to stick in here. And this will thicken it. Don't worry about it. This is going to thicken. It's not going to be super thick, but it will thicken. Do not put cream in here. Don't put any kind of flour in this. Don't have to do that. If you wanted to cook the pasta in this sauce, you could absolutely do that. But that is not necessary. But to save time today, I may do that. As our oven has hit temp for our chicken, so it's about time. Okay, so you can see there the cheese is in. The thinness is coming out of our sauce. It's still a little watery, and that's fine. It's going to reduce more. It's going to continue to reduce. And now is the time we're going to taste this for seasoning. New spoon here, see where we're at. Okay, so here's what we need. We need a tad more tomato. Just a smidge. All right. We need a tad more of this. And we need some more of this. So there we go. Now that's looking good. So we just got to keep this on this aggressive simmer. I'm going to taste this one more time here. Another new spoon. Almost. Almost. Okay. We're going to take this off the front burner now. Put it on our back burner and just let it simmer here for a while, and then we'll add a whole metric ton of cheese at the end. But for now, this is oh, we need a little pepper in there. Not quite there yet, but we need a little pepper. Okay, excellent. All right, so that's going to stir down there, and now it's time for our chicken. So it is, what time is it? It is 3:30. This will be done by a little before 5 o'clock, which is great as far as timing goes. So our pan is in there. Our cast iron pan has been in there for a while. And it's hot now. But what we have to do now is clean our chicken. So I'm going to take my board, take everything out of the sink here that I've been using. We're going to stick some of this stuff in the dishwasher. Again, this is stuff you never see on videos. So there we go. That goes in there. And there we go. Okay. So in the dishwasher, we'll go with now, just going to go in our garbage bowl here. This one's clean. It's not quite there yet, sorry. Now that we're cleaned up a bit, here's my grater. Okay, so this is a whole chicken. 4 pounds, broiler, fryer, right? It's always best to buy your chicken whole and cut it yourself. Okay. That way you know where the chicken came from. Getting pieces in a store is more expensive than this if you just get it whole. So my hands here are clean, but you want to make sure you get your chicken out of the bag. And there's this little plastic bag full of stuff, which is the gizzards and everything like that. And then what we want to do is get that skin nice and dry. And I'm going to get this onto one of my antimicrobial boards here in a second. We're just going to keep on this paper towel here to keep it dry. Right? Just like that. There's a silicone mat in the sink, by the way. All right, so this is our antimicrobial board. Right, that is bamboo. All bamboo is antimicrobial. It's like copper. It's pretty easy to work with. Pretty easy stuff. Now you can, by the way, use gloves when you're doing this. I'm not, just because I'm going to have to wash my hands anyway. So might as well just do with my hands. All right. So this is nice and dry on the surface. Now what we're going to do is spatchcock this guy. All that means is we're going to cut the backbone out and lay it flat. All right. So here we go. I've turned it upside down. All right. This is our bottom. I've got some shears here. These are some heavy-duty poultry shears, pork shears that I use for barbecue. So we're just going to snip down this one side of the backbone like that, and down the other, right? Snip through the bones. You can also do this with a really sharp knife, but this is much safer. All right, so clip through there, and we'll clip through there. Okay. There we go. All right, done. Now we make sure our scissors go right into the dishwasher. Now we wash our hands. So get all our stuff gathered up, and we wash our hands. Now I'm going to use another paper towel here in a second, all right, just to kind of dry out that inside cavity a little bit. Do not, under any circumstances, rinse your chicken. Okay? Unless you've brined it ahead of time, do not rinse your chicken. It's completely unnecessary, and it makes seasonings have a hard time sticking to the bird. Okay, so here's what we're going to do now. This guy, we're going to turn him over here. Now a lot of people tell you to take out the keel bone here or take out the wishbone, and that's fine if you're going to, debone it and slice it across the breast. But we don't really have to do that here. So we're just going to go ahead and crack that breastbone. You hear that? All right? And so it can lay nice and flat like that. Okay? Now we're going to start on the bottom here. Okay? Actually, we're going to start on the top. And what we need is to season our bird. You may have heard a lot of people say, oh, dry brine your chicken, brine it. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you're going to smoke it or barbecue it or whatever, and cook it for a long time, brining is completely essential. But for this method, you do not have to do that, and that's why I like it so much. So we're just going to get it seasoned up. You notice I opened up two little things under the skin there. If you've ever worked with turkey, which is just a giant-ass chicken, okay, you can, there's a little membrane underneath the breast meat that you have to get underneath to season it. So here's what we're going to do. Underneath the skin, is my dust mix, so my all-purpose dust. Underneath the skin, we're just going to get this guy nice and seasoned, just like that. Okay. It's going to get nice underneath there. We're going to rub that seasoning in. Okay. Then we're going to season the top. Okay, just a little bit of this goes a long way. Not a ton, just a little bit. All right. Now, this is sitting out at room temperature. Do not worry about it. It is not a big deal. There is enough salt on this bird to kill literally anything. It's nice in there. Get the wings all seasoned. Little nooks and crannies. Get underneath here. And I'm going pretty heavy. This is pretty aggressive, but we're going to need it because a lot of this is going to come off when we get it into the pan. Okay. Now you notice I'm not putting any olive oil on the skin here. And the reason why is that pan is blistering hot. So the fat in the chicken is going to be more than enough to get it nice and brown and crispy. Okay? All right, here we go. We will base it with olive oil at the end, so some olive oil, this Sorrento lemon flavored olive oil that I have, which is really, really good. Okay, so there we go. Put that in there. Now, as you'll notice, the underside is getting seasoned a lot heavier, and that's because the seasoning will have a tough time sticking to this underside. If you're putting this on a smoker, you want to use a binder, like olive oil or mustard or something like that, but not in this case. Okay, this can happen real quick. This is really dangerous, and I hope I don't burn the house down. So, inside of that oven is a 550 degree cast iron pan that we have to transfer this bird into. All right, so I'm going to do this as safely as I possibly can. Now, just to let you know, 500 degrees is entirely too hot to roast this chicken at. So when I take this pan out, all right, I am going to then turn the oven down to 425. All right. Okay, that's out there. Now we're going to turn this down to 425. And that's going to be plenty hot enough to roast our bird. So, pan is screaming hot. This guy is going to go in, breast side down. Hear that sizzle? That's what we want. Okay. Now, if you're making brick chicken, like chicken under a brick, you can put a cast iron weight on top of that there, or like a pie weight or something like that. But you really don't need to do that in this case because this is going to cook so damn quick. It's unnecessary. Okay? Remember, lean meat, hot and fast, okay, and fatty meat, low and slow. All right, so here we go. My oven's is cooling down to 425. It's going to be real hot at first, but it's going to eventually even. Put this right back into our oven, and we're just going to leave it alone. Okay? We're going to cook it 3/4 of the way on that first side, and then we're going to take it out. We're going to flip it. We're going to baste it with that lemon oil. That's Sorrento lemon oil, and it's going to take about 40-45 minutes to cook. And at that point, when we rotate the chicken, we are going to stick a thermometer in it to make sure we get it to hit temp. Going by time and weight is really never a good idea. A lot of those recipes that rely on that from 70, 80 years ago were dealing with very, very inconsistent ovens, and also not necessarily the most hygienic of conditions. So you had to cook stuff to death to make sure it was safe to eat. But as long as your chicken, the deepest part of your chicken breast registers 155 when this chicken is ready to come out of the oven, you're good. It'll carry over to 165 and it'll still be juicy and moist and everything like that. And for a little added bit, we can turn the oven light on here and take a look at it as it's roasting. So here we go. Take a look at our bolognese. All right, we're almost there. It's going to reduce a little bit more. You'll notice that it's reduced by about half at this point, but we want to reduce it by about 2/3. Okay, so it's still a bit longer. reduce it similarly, a little bit more, and then we're going to dump in a ton of cheese. Okay? Just like risotto. At the end of this, we're going to finish this at really low temperature, dump in a ton of cheese, and then just leave it on the simmer, and leave it alone because it's got enough residual heat to keep cooking. By the way, if anybody's having problems with audio, let me know. This is a new shotgun mic, so hopefully it's working. The old one kind of got caught up in some dog shenanigans. And this is the thermometer we're going to use. This is one of those probes that you can leave in to your chicken. This one's wireless, so I can monitor it. Don't be a hero. Get one of these. It'll save your life. Cook it to temp. You'll be fine. All right? Don't try to guess when it's done. Make sure you know. All right? Let's clean up. So my board's going to go back into my sink here after I get all my chicken stuff out of it. Well, you've experienced the full gamut today. Me screwing up. The only two things I haven't done today are cut myself and or burn myself. So we're ahead of the game. I've just knocked stuff over on the table, so that's not bad. By the way, the gizzard pack you get in a chicken, you can always freeze that and make stock out of it later. They're good for that. It's good for that. But in this particular instance, I'm not doing that. Now, when I put in the other cheese, we're not going to use a microplane to grate it. I'm going to use a box grater. You've seen my box grater before. We're busting it out again. All right. Our chicken's in the oven. Our bolognese is ready to go. I'm going to finish up our pasta here. I did manage to save quite a bit of it after knocking it over. So that's fine. And I'm just gonna cut this stuff up here because it's ready to go. So these guys can go here. This guy can drill out bits. Now, like I said before, you can cook these in the sauce, because they're fresh pasta, it will cook very, very quickly. But that will make the sauce gloopy later, and it won't hold together. So we're going to cook these separately in some water. I'm going to get my water boiling here in a second, and show you how to properly season pasta water, because everybody does that wrong, so we're going to do that right today. Just like when we make fish and chips, okay, the water has to be seasoned in order for the final thing you're cooking in the water to taste right. So the general rule of thumb for pasta, just like it is with potatoes, is it should be as salty as the sea. Okay, that's good pasta. We're good. Okay. So when I say as salty as the sea, what do I mean? Well, what I mean is a lot of salt, okay? At least a quarter cup to a gallon of water. And that may seem like a ton of salt, and, you know, it is. It's a lot of salt, but you need it, okay? Like I said, it's hell getting old. Wow. By the way, if you're trying for the link on Facebook, it is broken. I did set up the new link, so we'll see. Okay. We always start with, you don't want to start with warm water. Cold water is fine. It doesn't really take much longer to boil cold water than it does warm water. So. Contrary to popular belief. Okay, so this is our boil. This is about a gallon of water. We are going to add the salt now. This is a cup of salt. I'm going to use half of this, basically. So here we go. That is a quarter cup of kosher salt. That is a lot of salt, but you need the salt. All right. So our sauce is getting there. Now we're going to go ahead and put the spurs to this. Get it to a rolling boil, and that means that it's big bubbles and it's literally rolling. And you're going to get this cloudiness is going to go away. It's going to get clear. All right, look at our bolognese. Look at this. It's nice. It's thickening up quite a bit for that low heat. And we've only been letting this simmer for, it's almost 4 o'clock. We started this an hour and a half ago, so this has been simmering for an hour and a half. In about another 15-20 minutes, this is going to be ready to go. And coincidentally, that's when our water is going to be at a full boil. So we can throw our pasta in there, cook it really quickly, and then sauce it up, and I'll show you how to do that properly. And also, our chicken will be then done. So we've had that chicken in there for what, about 20 minutes? So let's see where we're at here. Okay, still needs a little bit more time on that first side. And we'll pull that out here in just a bit and flip it over. Okay? And that's when we'll put in our temperature, our probe thermometer. I'm going to temp it with an instant read first just to see where we're at, and that'll help me adjust how far we need to go. Okay? So you can hear that little hissing from the salt. That's what we want to hear. All right. I'm going to see if I can answer some questions right now because I've got some time because nothing's really doing anything at the moment. So, let's see here. I'm sending links to people right now. Okay, so nothing interesting today, but I need some water because it is hot in here. Whew. Tasty stuff. Okay, let's check our chicken's temperature. It should be about time for it to be flipped. Oh, not quite. We want to see a little bit of brown on the top there start to form. A little bit of crust. Not quite yet. So I'd say about 4 or 5 more minutes before we flip it over. If anybody has the live stream link, post it in the comments because I seem to have lost it. So great. So one question just came in from Twitter. I don't know the answer as to why American Bolognese became this sort of red mess of sauce. I really have no idea. I'll look up the history of that. I really don't know. This is the way my grandma always made it, so I just assumed that that's the way it's always been. It's the way I've had it in Italy, so I assumed that that's the way it was. But, you know, spaghetti bolognese, typically you get this really heavy tomato-forward sauce. It's, you know, honestly, I really don't know how to do that. I don't know the answer to that. I will look that up. Yeah, tomorrow I'm hoping to do a ribs episode. The weather's supposed to be gorgeous, so we're going to do 2 different kinds. I'm going to do St. Louis ribs, and we're going to do baby backs. You got to cook both of them totally differently. Not totally, well, a little bit differently. Baby backs got to cook a little faster, a little hotter, between 275 and 300. St. Louis ribs we're going to smoke in our cabinet smoker for about 4 hours. Those are going to be amazing. They're both going to be incredible. So I'm going to make 2 racks of those tomorrow. I was thinking if I had enough time today, I would show you how to prep those, because similar to any kind of poultry or something you're going to cook outside, ribs, dry brining really does help the ribs. So what we're going to do overnight is we'll put a layer of yellow mustard down, and then we're going to season them, put a rub on, cover them, stick them in the fridge or a really well-lined cooler with some ice packs, and keep them overnight. And then we're going to hit them with another dose of rub before we put them on the smoker and before we put them on the grill. So dry brining helps keep ribs moist throughout that long cooking process. It helps the salt and the sugar penetrate so it doesn't get dried out. And you'll notice that a lot of ribs that you've made, if you cook them too long, they do get dried out. We're going to fix that. So if I've got enough time today, I'll show you how to do that. I also have a prime rib in there that I need to break down into steaks, so I can probably show you how to do that too. I promise I won't make a huge mess with those, like I did with our pasta, but it is going to be delicious. I promise you that. All right, now one thing I want to bring up. Okay, olive oil in your pasta water, completely unnecessary. All right, completely unnecessary. It also doesn't help the sauce stick. It forms an oil slick because oil and water don't go well together, right? So I don't recommend doing that. Just put a ton of salt in there and make it nice and seasoned up. Okay. Alrighty. So our bolognese is almost ready to go. Now we're going to put in a ton of cheese. When I say a ton of cheese, I don't literally mean 2,000 pounds, but I mean a ton of freaking cheese. So I've got my box grater here. And we want to dump this all in at once. So I'm going to grate this into a separate bowl, a separate container. And there we go. I'm going to use the big, my large grates here. Okay, because that sauce is hot enough to break it down. When we're making the risotto, you want to use a finer grate of cheese, just because the rice doesn't do the same, doesn't break it down as well as the sauce does. And also, to get that creamy texture, silky, creamy texture at the end with your Parmigiana or your Grana Padano in your risotto, you need very, very thin bits that melt really, really easily. Oh, okay. Okay, so that, about half of that 8-ounce piece of cheese, right into there. And that's the last bit of seasoning we're going to do. And that should be ready to go. So I'm going to taste this here in a bit. And if we need to add more cheese, we will. But I don't think so. I think that's going to be enough. But I will taste it here momentarily just to see. Now I need another spoon. A little pepper. Okay. And amazingly, needs more of this. So I'm going to put a pinch more balsamic in there. It needs a little acid, as Brody is defending the homestead from. So a little more cheese. The recipe for this, when I put it up on the website, by the way, is going to be pretty straightforward. But again, it's just a guideline because honestly, every time I make this, I'm never sure exactly how much cheese I'm going to use, and you really don't know. You can follow the recipe, and it's a good guide. But if you like the flavor to be a little bit different, you know, a little bit heavier, a little bit lighter, you know, you got to do what you want. Okay, that's starting to look right. Alright, any recipe, by the way, that tells you to put, like I think I've said this before, tells you to use flour as a thickener in your bolognese or in your risotto or anything like that is completely wrong. Do not do that, ever. Do not put flour in your bolognese or in your risotto. Okay. See that color? Almost like beef vegetable soup? Okay, that's it. That's the stuff. Okay. There we go. Put this away. No, Gracie. This is not your cheese. This is not your cheese. No, it is not. Okay. So, our chicken's been in there long enough to flip. So let's take our water off the boil just there for a second as we get this guy out of the oven. You can hear that nice sizzle there. Okay, that's good. That's what we want to see. Now this is heavy, so you're going to have to use 2 hands with this. This is a 12-inch cast iron. Not exactly the lightest piece of kitchen equipment. Okay. So you can see there that our chicken has sort of cooked on this side, all right? But the breast, all right, has the bulk of the cooking. Take tongs. You do not want to touch this with your hands. It's really friggin' hot. Flip that over. See that? That nice brown crust? That's what we want. Now I'm going to get my instant read and see where we're at. And you see how that weight of the chicken flattened out that breast, but that also keeps in the juice of said chicken. Okay, so we've got a ways to go yet. but it's more than, it's 100, it's over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. That's fine. So now what we're going to do is brush this with our Sorrento lemon oil. And you just put a little bit over top. Just like that. Just a little bit. It's going to hit the pan. You're going to hear a little sizzle. That's good. You can get a nice lemony, bright flavor out of that. It's going to be delicious. Okay, so that's just extra virgin Sorrento lemon flavored olive oil. You can put some lemon zest on there if you want, but it's not necessary. So here we go, into the oven, and put my probe in now into the breast. Smell that lemon, it smells so good. Into the deepest part of our breast there. All right, and now we're going to turn this guy on. Okay, and you can see my thermometer here. It's reading 102. All right, so what I'm going to set this for is 155. And this little wireless guy, I use this for barbecuing outside so I can clip it to my belt. It's real easy, so I'm just going to clip this guy here to my apron so I can keep an eye on it. And it's got a little Bluetooth transmitter, and it's pretty cool. So I can do other stuff. All right, so there's extra room in the fridge. That chicken's out of there. Yes, that's good boy. Good. Balsamic away. Knife off. Flour. And again, once that hits 155, that chicken is done. Okay, we don't need to do anything else to it. The skin's going to be crispy, and it's going to be delicious. You can hear the fan coming on now because we've got a lot of heat here. And now we are almost ready to eat our pasta. So I got to light my burner here. Again, clean up as you go along, as my grandma would say. So, excuse me. Sorry. Oh, and by the way, I am going to do salsa verde tomorrow. I have to shoot that, so I will show you that. That should be up on Sunday. I apologize again for the delay in some of the stuff, but I just don't haven't had the time this week because I went back to work. So today I'm off till Monday, so hopefully I can get enough stuff done this weekend to last the next couple of weeks. Because you may not see me do anything live for a while, especially like I said, if we get a summer rush. There we go. All right. So we're ready to do. All right, that is almost ready. And I'm going to show you this here in a second to see how the difference in color from previous. Right? Look at that. You see that? How it's dark? It's that deep burgundy red. And we've kept this uncovered for almost 2 hours, and that's what we want. We want to reduce it. We want to get it nice and concentrated flavor-wise. And remember that pasta is going to need dressed. And when we dress this pasta, I'll show you this here in a bit. We're going to use our 12-inch nonstick pan. And the pasta is going to go right under the water and into our pan with a little bit of pasta water, and then we're going to put our sauce on top of it. It's going to be really light dressing. It's not going to be super heavy or swimming in sauce or anything like that. So we're going to get our pasta ready here. Now our water is seasoned, so you don't have to hit the pasta with salt. Chicken out, and if I've done this right, everything will be done at the same time. Chicken's at 117. Okay. There. And as soon as that hits temp, this water should be ready to boil here pretty soon. We're almost there. You see how it's clear now, instead of that milky, sort of hazy consistency as it was before. strainer. Very important. And then what we're going to do is get a plate here so I can bowl, so I can... Oh, crap, I need a pan. All right. Okay, here's our pan. Now our pan, I'm going to take this bolognese now and shift it to the other side of our burner setup here. And we're going to kill that heat because it doesn't need to reduce anymore. It's in good shape. Just going to give it one quick stir here with our wooden spoon, then we're going to stick our ladle in there. And that is good. That is good to go. Okay, ladling. Excellent. Okay, our ladle. Stove has decided to stop behaving itself, so. Alright. So we're going to get our pan over low heat here. We don't want it too hot. And I'm going to show you a little trick. We're going to put just a smidge of olive oil in the pan here. This isn't something you're going to see a lot. Just a bit. And we're going to get, what this is going to allow us to do is not quite fry our pasta, but get it a little crispy when it comes out of the water, because it's going to need some help. All right? And then we've got our parsley here as well. And that's just going to be for final garnish, and then we're going to put some cheese over top. We'll put that away. This is not for you. This is not for you. This is for me. Yeah. This is for me. When the camera stops, I can give you food. People don't want to see you eat on camera. Tracy's very interested in this. So, a little bit of olive oil right there. That's all we're going to do. See the water? Kind of at a rolling boil there. Right. Real easy. Now let's see where our chicken's at. 124. So we've got 30 degrees to go yet on our chicken, and that's going to be not very long. So I'm going to keep an eye on it. Alright, so here we go. I'm going to show you this procedure. This is pretty easy, but it's real quick. So here we go. Our pasta is here. Remember, this does not cook fast. It does not cook slow at all. It is really quick. So here's our pasta. Drop those individual. Now, pappardelle is thicker, bigger pasta, so it takes longer to cook, but not too much. Right? And if you want this al dente, okay, you're going to pull this out of the water before it's totally done. So once this comes right back up to a boil, we're going to fish this guy out, throw it in our pan. It's going to be hot, and then sauce it. It's really easy. It's real quick, so you pay attention. So I'm going to set my timer here. I've got a timer for 1 minute, and we'll see how long that pasta takes. It should only take about 90 seconds, if that. But we are just going to, double check just in case. So, let's see here. You don't want to disturb it too much, right? But it's going to cook pretty quick. As soon as that comes up to a boil, this is going to be done. Now, you can get one of those fancy pasta pots that has like a strainer built in, and that's fine. Those are great, but those are not cheap. Alright, so our pasta, believe it or not, is about 95% of the way there. So I'm just going to take one little piece here, test it, see where we are. And you see how it's floating on the top there? That's how you know it's ready. It's almost, like I said, it's about a minute. Okay. So, almost done. I tasted that guy. Alright, there we go. So these guys, they're going to be done here momentarily. So really does not take very long. So, here we go. Into our pan. Do not wash or rinse pasta. Don't do that. Crispy. Into our pan, a little bit of olive oil. A little bit of our bolognese. And that's it. Alright, that's it. That's all we're going to put in. A little bit of our bolognese, a little more sauce, not a ton. Nice and hot, pasta's finished cooking. And then we're going to put that right into our awaiting bowl. Just like that. Okay, done. Easy. And that's how you would do that for service. It's real, and when you're cooking for a lot of people, that makes it easy too. So, real quick like that, real easy. Your pasta's nice and fluffy and light and delicious. And if you want to add some cheese and some parsley, this would be one to do it. Well, we're going to add some more cheese now. This is when we use the microplane. And we're just going to take some fresh corn parsley. Like that. And there we go. That is your perfect bolognese. Traditional, delicious, wunderbar. Okay, great. Alright, so bolognese is done. That's out of the way. It's real simple. I can save the rest of this for when my wife comes home. And, okay. Turn our boiling water off because we don't need that anymore. And you see how easy that was. Just getting, I mean, issues aside with toppling things over and tripping over stuff. It's really not that hard. And if you have a well laid out kitchen or pretty good workspace, yeah, that's the flavor you're going to want. That is the consistency you want. Our chicken's at 136, so we're almost there. Our boiling water is down. I can clean most of this up now, which is great. I'm just cleaning the seam of time over here. Pasta. Pretty sure it'll all be all over the internet. Okay. Pasta's done. Our bowl's done. Bolognese is done. We just gotta wait for our chicken to finish cooking. The thermometer I'm wearing here will beep. We only got 17 degrees to go, so it's not going to take very long. Again, that chicken took maybe 40 minutes. It's going to take maybe 40 minutes total to finish. It's really not that difficult to do. And it's the easiest roast chicken you've ever made in your life. If you have a cast iron pan, use it. It's got a million uses. So, get a cast iron pan, put your chicken in there, effing delicious. And we've only got, yeah, see, it's coming up to temp pretty easy here. It's 140, right? So we got 15 degrees to go, and that's not going to take very long at all. Maybe another 2-3 minutes, actually. So I'm just going to step out of the way. Gracie needs to go outside, so hold on. You want to go outside? Let's see if I can answer some more questions for you guys. You guys might have. All right. So the two questions I got were, I'm trying to figure out the most diplomatic way to answer both of these. Like I said, I don't know the history really. I mean, I'll try to look it up. But my most generous explanation for why people think making bolognese is just tomato sauce with a bunch of beef in it is that to mass produce something on a large scale, it's easier to do that. Like, if you already have a bunch of just like crushed tomatoes, rather than dealing with beef stock and wine and all that other stuff, putting a bunch of like cheap ground beef with some dry seasonings in a bunch of crushed tomatoes, it's easy to sell, it's easy to store, it's easy to. That's my best possible explanation for that. I honestly have no idea. I'll try to figure that out. But then again, what my great grandma used to say was when they came to America, and this is prior to Depression, but also after the Depression, it was always more, right? Because there was more stuff here. So more stuff went into things. And I think things just took on their own life after that. And honestly, Chef Boyardee from Cleveland is the biggest culprit of this. Because he canned that stuff in 1949 or whatever that was, or whenever the hell he did that, and sent it all over the country. So people think that that's what it is. Plus, Americans have a sweet palate because we're used to ketchup and all kinds of other crap. So who the hell knows? Honestly, I have no idea. We're almost done. So, Gracie, I can't do anything about this. All right, so my wonderful Gracie has decided that this is when she needs to go play ball. I really appreciate you guys tuning in today, but we're almost done here. The chicken is at 149, so we're really, really close. You can pull it, by the way, at 150, and it'll still carry over, but 155 is a little bit safer on the nose. That way the thighs are more likely in the 170 range or 160, where you want them to be. So I'm going to take this out here in a couple of seconds once this beeps, and it's really, really close. It's maybe a minute away. It's 151. So and then I'll eat some of this and show you. Oh, you know what? I can eat some of this now. Do you see how light and fluffy that pasta is? Really, really nice. I conveniently have a fork right out of frame. Yeah. Okay. That's it. That's the stuff. Yeah. If you do it for like not make your own pasta, it's fine. But just use good quality stuff. Good quality dry stuff. Pappardelle is good. Delilah is good. Same from Italy. Do you think this is for you? Do you? That is not for you. almost ready. Come on. 1 degree away, bird. Should beep here momentarily. We shall see. Come on. There we go. And we're done. All right. I'll show you this. Do you see this? All right, that's what you want to see. So I'm going to turn this up now and show you what happens. 165 is what it's going to carry over to. Do you see how crispy and crunchy that skin is? All right. That was just that oil we put on there. We didn't put anything else. You didn't need any extra help. And that's cooked through. And it's juicy. See how it springs back? It's not dry. It's crispy. Here, let me show you. To pay some homage to Chef John of the internet. Pork don't lie. You can hear that. All right, nice and crispy. Right? But that's it. I mean, carve that up, put it into breasts, legs, thighs, whatever you want to do. It's absolutely delicious. I'm going to put this on a board here, and we'll cut it up. Wondering what I'm doing, I'm getting my tongs to get this guy out of our pan and stick him on our board. Remember, this is our antimicrobial bamboo board. Okay. Now I'm going to use my tongs here to carve this. You may have seen me use in the past the slicing knife. You've made me see me use my chef's knife. Right. Today I'm going to be using something a little bit different. I'm just going to be using a tiny slicing knife, not the boning knife. We're just going to be using a mid-range slicer, okay? Mid-size slicer, and that's this guy, right? Because it can get right inside your, inside the chicken pretty easily. So here we go. Now I have the tongs out because we need the tongs to hold our bird. Right? There we go. So that is. It's out of the oven. Now you want to rest this for a few minutes just to kind of let the juices sort of redistribute themselves. So I'm going to leave this alone for just a minute here, and I'm going to eat more pasta. How about that? They're so good. Just so you know, my even with the guanciale, even with the pancetta and everything else, my bolognese. It's really only about 120 calories a portion. And this whole bowl here is about 300. It's really not bad at all. Good job, me. That's fantastic. Okay. So, here's the thing. When it comes to any kind of cooking, Italian food in particular, making it from the heart is really what counts. You can make it fancy, you can make it look all Michelin-y, starry, and all that crap and make it look pretty, but bottom line is it's got to taste. Oh, it's really good. Okay. But ultimately, it's got to taste good. And that's the most important thing. Now, if you nail presentation too, that's awesome. The presentation is great. But if you're all flash and no substance, people are going to notice. So make sure you take the time to get a flavor right. Oh, yeah. Oh, and take the time to make the sauce, you know. Make it your own. This is my recipe, but take the time to not only make it your own, but to just make it. You know, we've been streaming here for about almost 2.5 hours. And I've got a whole thing of bolognese, and I've got a roast chicken done. And I've been explaining and talking the whole time. So, you know, in all honesty, if you have these things, these ingredients laying around at home, and we made fresh pasta. So if you have dry pasta, hell. That's half an hour you save right there, right? So it is not hard to make this stuff. And I promise you, anything you make at home is better than anything you can buy in the store. Just because of the freshness. And especially when especially when it comes to sausage. In order for tomato sauce to be shelf stable, it's got to have either a lot of salt or a lot of sugar in it, or both. And that's the problem with most commercial sauces, is they are salty, sugary, a lot of dried herbs, mass produced, you know, stuff like that. But, okay. Been vamping enough. It's time to cut our chicken. Now it's been resting long enough, so we're going to go straight down the breastbone here. See how easy that knife goes in there? Real easy. And we're going to cut our chicken right off like that. Okay. You ever get a rotisserie chicken from the grocery store? You know how easy they are to come apart? Look at that. Look at how juicy that is. Okay, you see that? Look at that. It just falls apart. It shreds. It's literally... This is amazing. Honestly, this will be the best roast chicken you've ever had in your life. Alright, here's how it's cooked. All the way through there. Look at all of that juice. Seriously, look at all that. Right? That's our thigh. Look how well cooked that is. It's not dry or anything like that. It's nice and juicy. Get a whole chicken breast out of here if I can find it. Oh, by the way, you see that pink stuff right there? That is cooked. That's just a blood vessel. Don't be freaked out by that. Let's cut this guy in half. That breast is juicy. Look at that. Okay. Holy hell. Okay. So, honestly, do this with your chicken. It's super easy. I'm going to eat the skin too. Look at that. Crispy. Crunchy. Look at that. Look how juicy. See? Most people cook chicken to death. Do not cook chicken to death. Just temp it, roast it quick, and you have the juiciest, tastiest chicken you've ever had in your life. And honestly, oh, I've made this probably 300 times, and honestly, every time I make it, it's fabulous. So, but you saw how easy that was, right? All that was technique. There was no special gadgets or gizmos. No, you know, super fancy stuff. No intricate recipes. Just a fresh chicken and a good technique. And when I say all you need is good technique to make stuff work, that's what I'm talking about. So that chicken, also by the way, was in the freezer for like 2 months. And so, you know, you can make this stuff. You make restaurant quality food at home. It's not hard to do. And you're going to be hard pressed, really, to be honest with you, to find anybody who can make chicken like this anywhere out. So I would suggest using this recipe, following my method, and people are going to think you, you know, you trained in some giant restaurant. That's incredible chicken. Okay. Roast the whole chicken though. If you do this in pieces, okay, you're going to have to brine the individual pieces because they don't hold the moisture as well. But just roast the whole bird like I showed you. It's super easy to do. And super, super healthy. So, I hope you guys have enjoyed this live stream today. I know it's kind of impromptu and we only had a day leading up to it, but I've really enjoyed. I enjoyed being able to do this for you guys. So, sorry. Let me know what you think. If there's any improvements I can make. But I'm going to eat the rest of this. Wait for my wife to come home here from work, and probably have to go through the ball around a bit. All right, you have yourselves a wonderful day.